Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to do a patchwork background style and of course make them into a couple of cards so that you can see a finished product as well. Now, I am going to be using the Dina Wakley mixed media scribble sticks today, and I'm going to do two different versions for you. One, I'm going to use this clear gesso. Now, I have this Liquitex brand. There are lots of different brands out there. Some are a little more firm, some are a little more runny, some are, they have all different textures and feels to them. This is just the one that I have because I don't use it that often. But whatever you have is going to work. But a layer of clear gesso really makes a difference. Now, you could use white gesso as well here. It definitely changes how these scribble sticks go down and also the colors. Now, you will find that depending on the paper you work with, these sorts of art crayons or watercolor crayons or those sorts of things, they all work very differently on different papers. Now, the clear gesso, I find, does even that out a bit. It kind of makes them work on any paper, and it makes them completely movable, sort of water reactive, but you don't even want to see your original scribble strokes. That's what I'm looking for when I'm using these. Now, in saying that, the paper that I am using is the Frenchville brand. I purchase it here at Spotlight in New Zealand. I know that you can get the exact same one in Australia, Spotlight, and this is the 110 pound version. There is definitely a lighter version, but I use this one for my card bases and card fronts. Now, the paper on the left here is with the gesso. The paper on the right is just the plain paper. And of course, these are the scribble sticks. Now, there are obviously lots of different versions of these out there. This is just what I have today. And by no means does this mean that you need to stick to these. You could use acrylic paints. You could use watercolor crayons. You could use watercolor markers. You could use regular ink, like dye ink. You could use anything. There are so many different options out there. I'm just playing with my scribble sticks today, just in case that's what you have in your stash and you'd like an idea on how you can use them. So we're basically going to create this patchwork background today. Now, actually, you could really create this with a bit of more mixed media and create this background with squares of other material that you've created, other scraps of coloured cardstock or cardstock that you had done gel printing on, or all those sorts of things. You could make a patchwork background using that too. So as I had mentioned, the one great thing that I'm enjoying about these is that when I go over this with some water, I just have some plain water over there to the right, and this is just a regular, plain old paintbrush. When I go over this pigment, it shifts around beautifully, so much so that you can't see the original scribbles. It completely moves the color around, which is exactly what I'm looking for. You will find on some surfaces that actually you can still see exactly where you scribbled. And this will happen for some, like if you're familiar with the Zig Kuretake markers, that when you use them on the wrong type of surface, then you couldn't, they were usually water reactive, they're watercolor markers, but they wouldn't, move. You could still see your strokes from the brush, and that's not what we're aiming for in this case. But so it's brilliant to go over top of this. You'll see the one on the left with the gesso is much, much brighter. Those colors are much bolder and much brighter, I would say. Now, I am going to dry these in between each colour I apply, and that is just so when I put wet media next to wet media, it's not going to mix the colours, because some of the colours I'm putting together are going to make a bit of mud, and that is another like a cool element about these is when you can layer them up and they aren't going to make mud on top of each other. I'm keeping them relatively separate, but there's definitely some areas where they go over top of. Even colours like this purple, which would actually be really hard to mix in. You can see all of that pigment is getting moved around by the water and the brush rather than seeing those strokes as to where you originally had it. So this is a very, very fun technique. You can put a lot of colors together. You can go simple. I chose about 4 colors here out of the scribble sticks, and we have got 2 gorgeous backgrounds ready to go. Now, I know what you're thinking here, that these backgrounds are pretty bold. There's quite a lot going on. quite a lot of colour, and you'd be right. There are a few ways that we can go about this, and I'm going to show you 2 different options today into how to turn these into cards. I'm trimming on just the very edges, and then I'm also going to add some white texture over top. So I'm doing this using the LOTZA Dots stencil from AALL Create. And I'm also using some white texture paste from Ranger, this one happens to be. And I'm just going to add in some more details, but plain white. I actually could have used some bigger circles there. I think that would have looked great too. Now, this was in my scrap stash. I think I cut this one out of a magazine maybe, but I loved it so much. I added it didn't originally have the stem down the bottom. So I just added that in with a marker, these 2 markers here. These happen to be the Altenew watercolour markers. Now, all I'm doing is creating a leaf. It doesn't matter that these are watercolour markers. You could use alcohol markers. You might have a stamp that would also work. And I am, again, not really a good artist at drawing these sorts of things, but I can do a leaf shape. So I drew one version and then sort of a curled over, bent over leaf version, just to see what I could make work. Again, these are just to add some extra greenery and a little leaf there. I like this first one. I just need to make it a little bit smaller. So we curve it and we cut it out. So, when in doubt, we can make it work. Now for this one, I'm going to use, I have all these sentiments that I have these stamps and dies for. And so I go ahead and when I don't feel like making a completed card, I just stamp them all out and I keep them in the back of the packaging. That means when I reach for the stamp, I usually get a happy surprise that there are already colors done in the background. In this case, I've done them all in black and navy, and they are ready to go when I just want to pull them out and to not have to go through that entire step all over again. So this beautiful background that we have created with the bold patchwork and then a little bit of white just for some texture and interest in the background, but not taking away from the beautiful background that we have created already. And then we've got this gorgeous big purple flower, this very dominant focal feature that's going to go on the front. I have popped this down onto my card base, which is the 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch Frenchville brand cardstock, the paper that I was talking about earlier on. And then I'm just going to put these down nice and flat. I don't need too much dimension with this card. This one is definitely going through the mail, so I was keeping it relatively flat. And use some glue on the back, add on my little leaf, and then a little sentiment that says just saying hi. So it's that simple to put together some gorgeous colors in the background and then a beautiful big purple flower for the focal point. So this is going to be the card number 1. I'm going to trim off the end of that stem. First of all, I trim it with the edge of the card, but then I actually go ahead and trim it with the edge of the background there. I think that looks better. And then this one here, I am actually going to trim this down, and I'm going to make several cards from this, but just to show you what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing a couple of times over. I have these border dies from Paper Rose. I will link all of these down below. I did a video recently using border dies that included this one in it, and all the ways, well, sort of 3 or 4 main ways that I use these border dies, because they are just gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning, and I wanted to show you all the ways that you can use them just in case you have something similar. So I have these ones. I'm going to double up some 1mm foam tape, pop this down the sides, because this is a beautiful colourful background that we have created, and that stark white contrast means that this beautiful pattern of these flowers, of these florals, is going to really shine through. Now I have the 1/4 inch and the 1 inch of the foam tape in the 1mm, so I just add, whatever's necessary. In this case, it means I can fit a couple of 1/4 inch wide down one side and then mix and match on the other side so that I just get the exact right amount. Trim off any excess that I don't need, and then this is going to go down onto a card base again with another one of those sentiments just from the exact same set before. If you have any questions about the products that I've used, I always link them down below so that you can check them out. You can go and have a look at them. You might have something similar in your stash. If you are wanting more Natasha Foote videos, then you can come over to natashafootecreative.com, my website, and I have a whole host of card making classes, of videos, and when you sign up to be a monthly or an annual member for just a small cost, then you are able to get everything, all the card making classes, all the series of videos, all the PDF downloads, everything is over there for you. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me. I've added some gems and things to these, and these 2 cards are done. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you then. Bye.